Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel Testing Mini Bytes. I'm your friend Amudal Shaktivel, and this is part 3 of the framework development series and part 13 of the entire Playwright TypeScript series. I hope you are enjoying the series so far. If you are doing that, please hit on that like button so it reaches maximum people. Right? In this particular video, we're gonna make it very simple. So we're gonna install ESLint and we are gonna configure ESLint for our framework. I'm going to cover what is ESLint, why we need to use it, how to install the necessary packages, and how we can customize certain rules and stuff like that, right? Without wasting much time, let's get into the IntelliJ. Again, in the last video, I have given a challenge to everyone. A lot of people have tried it, and you have given your feedback in the comments. So thanks for that. But then this video, I will cover how to do that. So there is one important concept that we need to understand. For example, it's called as declaration merging. First, we will understand what is uh, interface declaration merging. For example, let's keep this as first name of string, right? So if there is an interface called employee with the first name of string, let's say I create another interface of employee with the middle name of string, then what happens is when you try to create, let's say, an object called as employee, then it basically gives you an option to add both first name and middle name. For example, this first name is part of this employee, this middle name is part of this employee. Since both the interfaces has same names, so TypeScript merges these two things, right? In case of Java, we normally, if we have two different classes and interfaces with same name, we throw error. But in TypeScript, it is a little different, right? It merges because the name is same. We call it as declaration merging. Since this is happening at the interface level, we call it as interface declaration merging. So the properties gets merged when the interfaces have same name, and that's what we are going to utilize in our to solve this problem. So the problem is we want to get auto suggestions when somebody types right? Process.env, we want to know the TypeScript auto suggests all these options for us, right? So it becomes easy, right? Again, this is not a very important. I thought of covering this interface declaration merging, which is kind of unique. So I thought of sharing with you guys. But then how to do this? How to get this auto population for environment variables? So in order to do that, let's say what you can do is you can create normally these kind of types. So basically, we are going to create types for this environment variables. Normally, let's say somebody creating a package in TypeScript ecosystem, what they do is they basically create so it created a file instead of let's delete this, do refactor. So what I want to do is basically I want to create a directory called as types just to keep it separate. And inside that, I want to create a file called as global.d.ts. So this is the convention. Normally people use .d.ts to create types, right? So in our case, what we want to do is there is a process env interface, okay? That is already existing in Node.js namespace. Again, guys, this process env interface is not present in our code, okay? So we cannot directly say interface process env and then override it, right? So we cannot do this because it doesn't work. It doesn't know where this process env is. So the TypeScript compiler doesn't know about it. So what we want to do, we want to tell the TypeScript compiler clearly the namespace that it has to consider. Namespaces are basically like packages in Java ecosystem. They are most probably used for making sure that we don't have conflicting names, right? So that's why we have a Node.js namespace, and inside that there is a process env. So I want to override or I want to do the interface declaration merging with these three values, right? So we know we want to this process env need to add these two values, right? This is what we did even here when we had interface, you know, employee. We did the same thing, right? So we had something like this. and then we also had interface employee with middle name, right? So this is what we had, and this is what we are going to have here as well. We add the properties that we want to declaratively merge into this process env variables. So now we did this, but the thing is, we need to let TypeScript compiler know there is an additional type it needs to take into account. So let's go to, we don't have a tsconfig.json. This is where we need to tell TypeScript compiler about it. See, in the previous case, the TypeScript compiler understand because it's in the same code. It while it compiles, it understand it has to declaratively merge it. But in this case, we are creating a new type. So we need to let TypeScript compiler know about this. So create a simple tsconfig.json. There is something called as type roots, and so by default, this is the types it can uses. For example, if you go to your node modules, you have types from all these packages, right? So that whenever we type something, right? Let's say if I go to my add employee spec.js, when we let's say type page dot something, we get all these type options because these types are created by Playwright people and then exported it as types. That's why we are able to use them here. Now let's go back to the tsconfig.json, and then I'm additionally adding the types from E2E. There is framework config, and inside this we have type. Sorry, not the framework config. It's inside types global. Yeah. So now we told TypeScript not just use this, but also use this. Guys, one important thing is if you forget to mention this, then you won't get auto population for all the existing types here in the node modules. So whenever you declare type roots, you have to you are overriding the default behavior of TypeScript. So make sure that you are including the existing types and also adding your types. Now, if I go back to the file, I get the options here. It is auto populating. So my TypeScript compiler knows these things exist in the process environment interface, right? So it's suggesting us. So this is cool. But again, I don't recommend doing this. This is just for learning purpose. So let me remove all these things. Let's clean up all the tsconfig.json as well. So we have already handled this using a class and then variables like this. So it's just for learning purpose. We don't need this demo.ts as well. So yeah, now we're all good. We have a test class here, and we want to add ESLint. So let's learn a little bit about ESLint. So if you go to ESLint, you can see ESLint is a tool for identifying and reporting some common patterns, right? In JavaScript or your we have a plugin for TypeScript, but then with the goal of making code more consistent and avoiding bugs, right? ESLint is completely pluggable. You can configure new rules. You can remove certain rules. You can add new rules. It depends upon you, right? So they have given all these things. So you need a different versions to start with. You can configure this using this way, and all of this stuff. So for example, if you want to understand is, let's say you have a simple ESLint config that says like this, so semicolon. So normally in Java, semicolon at the end of the statement is mandatory. But in JavaScript ecosystem, it is optional. You can have it or you don't have it. So in a project, some people add it, some people don't add it. So newcomers doesn't know they have to add it or not. So in order to have a uniformity across the code base, you can declare, I want to have a rule of semicolon. And if somebody is not having semicolon at the end, I want to throw error. Okay. When you want to do it, always. So you can see there are different states that you can set for this rule. So if let's say you want to switch it off, you want to just warn, but don't, block people from merging their code, you could use warn. But then if you make it as error, then it'll turn the rule all as error, and an exit code will be 1. Let's say if you are configuring this as a pre-commit hook, then you cannot commit your code to commit your code. So again, you can also extend. For example, instead of defining rules one by one, it's very hard for us to declare all the rules by ourselves. So what ESLint have done is they have created a set of rules and called it as ESLint recommended. So you can find all the rules in this rules page. So if you go, this is a set of all the rules in the ESLint, and you can see clearly what are them belongs to ESLint recommended. So let's say there is a rule called as getter method should have return statement. So this having a tick mark here indicates this is a recommended rule. And there is a settings here icon here which indicates whether if you pass -- fix in the command line, it will automatically fix it or not. Okay, so you can find certain rules. If you just pass -- fix, it will automatically fix it. Okay, and then this is some problems reported by this rule are manually fixable by editors. So editors can fix some of these rules, right? So you can understand based upon this tick mark settings button, this highlighting option, what are those. For now, we can just understand whatever that has tick is part of the ESLint recommended package. So when somebody is creating a config file, ESLint config file with ESLint recommended, all the roles from here, which has tick marks, will be part of it. You don't have to add one by one. Okay. Now, you can install this, npm install, do this. You can configure an ESLint rc.js file. So there are different ways you could have a config file. And for example, you can see some core concept. The ESLint is a configurable JavaScript linter, right? And it find and fix problems. Again, it cannot fix all the problems, but it can find all the problems for you. So there are rules. You can fix those rules automatically. There are configuration files. And as I mentioned, there is a shareable configuration. So ESLint recommended is one of the shareable configuration that many people use. And there is also ESLint config Airbnb based. So Airbnb company also created a recommended configuration for ESLint. Some people also use it. But in our case, we are going to use the standard ESLint recommended. You can also add plugins based upon the your code. For example, if you are a front-end developer using React, you could add a React plugin for it, so it contains certain rules from React. You can use parsers, but in our case, we are just going to use TypeScript ESLint parser, so it's going to be much easier for us. And we can also use formatters, but then we will cover that with prettier later. But then, these are all some of the things that you can learn. But in our case, hey, Amudan, we are not going to use React. We are not going to use Angular. Is there any plugin for Playwright? Yes. So we have a plugin called as ESLint plugin Playwright, which contains certain rules. Okay. So it contains additional rules. Let's say you expect, which means expect it is enforcing assertion to be made in the test body. You cannot write assertion in page layers. So this is one of the rules. Again, you could override these rules if necessary. So you can go through them. All of them are much simple, right? So you cannot have raw locators. You cannot have page.parse, where you cannot use wait for selector, wait for term, because these are all outdated stuff, right? So you can go through them. You can add them, if you need it. But let's go ahead and do the setup by ourselves. So in order to install the packages, required packages, I'm just going to run this particular command. So npm install, save it as a dev dependency. I want TypeScript ESLint parser and the TypeScript ESLint plugin and also the ESLint itself, right? So I'm going to install it. So now it installed it. Now what I can do is I have to create a configuration file, right? So let's go ahead and create a configuration file. So there are different ways you could create a configuration file. In my case, I'm going to use ESLint rc.json file. You can have YAML file, CJS file, JS file, but JSON is very, very simple, so I'm going to use it. So since it's a JSON, I can go ahead and pick the JSON. So I'm going to take the JSON file from here. Is there any JSON file here? Let's go ahead can we find some JSON here? Configuration files. So you can have, all these files, okay? JS, CJS, YAML, and stuff like that. So this is a JSON file that I'm looking for. So I could have copy pasted this from some notepad, but then I want to show you where I'm copying this so that you could copy it by yourself, right? So now we have all these things. Each one have their own things, but then important for us is we are going to extend the ESLint recommended. So all the rules that had tick mark there, we are going to use them. We are going to use all the TypeScript ESLint recommended plugins as well, because we are going to use TypeScript here in our Playwright. So we are going to use that. So again, the parser is ESLint TypeScript parser, because we are going to use TypeScript. Again, this posture option is something that we don't need now. So I commented for now. And the plugins is TypeScript ESLint for now. I don't need to add extra rules or override some existing rules. So I'll remove this. I don't need to have ignore patterns. Let's say you don't want to do ESLint check on certain files. You can add that thing here. Also, you could have ESLint ignore file, right? That's up to you. But then in this case, for now, I don't need to override anything. So maybe it's giving some suggestions, so I can add it. I don't want to do this formatting on this Playwrights folder as well. Playwright, right? So you can do this if you want. Playwright -report. Sorry, Playwright. Good. So you can do this, or you can also add ESLint ignore the file. Anything is fine. Now let's go ahead and do the ESLint for check. npx ESLint dot means the current folder itself. So I'm going to do an ESLint check here. And for now, there is no errors. Let's say I go and make some mistake myself and see if this fixes, finds it. Let's say I go here and let's say I miss something like this. Instead of, let's say, single quotes, I use double quote here. Let's see what it says. Okay, it doesn't complain anything so far, because I think the ESLint recommended doesn't have this semicolon stuff. You can, let's say you want to fix it automatically. You can pause -" fix. Okay, so I think the semicolon and stuff like that is actually not part of it, it seems. So that's okay. But then it should find if there is some big problem. Okay, so what I can do is I can also add this and see if this finds any problem. So npm install this plugin, and what they are saying is once you've done that, you can just add this particular stuff into the ESLint RC file. So let's go to ESLint JSON and to the extents, come on, and add it. Now all looks good. Let's see if it finds any sort of errors now. npx ESLint dot, no errors so far. So let's go ahead and do some noisy stuff. Missing playwright await. Okay, let's go ahead and remove one of the await. Let's see if it finds it. It doesn't really find anything. Is it ignoring all the stuff? Let's go ahead and remove all these things. It should find npm install. Okay, so it's not finding any problem for me, which is strange. It should find enforce. So this should be there. Enabled in the ESLint recommended configuration, which is pretty strange. So I don't know, guys, why this doesn't work. This missing playwright await. It's part of this. But then I tried with another one. For example, here, disallow usage of dot only annotation. So if I add dot only And then if I just run npx ESLint dot, so it says unexpected focus test, Playwright no focus test. So this is the one no focus test, right? So it is actually finding errors. And let's say they also mentioned this should be configurable and fixed by IDEs. But then let's try with npx ESLint dot and hyphen fix, whether this will fix it. No, actually, this is not fixing it. As they mentioned, only the ones with settings icon here will be missed, will be fixed by um, the command line. So let's go ahead and fix it ourselves. And now let's run it. It should not find any errors. That's good. Again, I do not know why this is not catched. Waited. So what they are telling is example of incorrect row. Okay, expect page to match text. So they are not awaiting it. So it says wrong. Okay, is it only for await statements? Okay, I thought it's for all the APIs. The rule accepts a non-required option, which can be used to specify custom matches. This is useful. You create your own async expect matches. Okay, this is only for the expect blocks. So let's remove this and try to run it again. And then it now throws the error. To be visible, must be awaited or returned. So the name could have been much clearer, so we can understand from it. But then yes, this is how you could use ESLint to find some problems with the existing code, right? I'll see you guys in next video where we could configure prettier. If you guys like the video, please hit on the like button. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.